Kingsnempton, November the 20th, 1755. Reverend Sir, I shall leave to your discretion to acquaint Mr. Sefton what I have observed to you, either in the same words that I have used or in any softer language that you shall think proper. 'Tis far from my desire to inflame, but rather so quiet and cool, for which I propose I should be ready to lend to Mr. Southcombe all those helps and assistances which charity can suggest. But still under his present circumstances, I shall avoid him with as much care and anxiety as I should a creature infected with a canine madness. As for me, thank God, his wild rants have had no other effects than to cause me to lament them. But the effects of them on my wife, whose strength and spirits have been in great measure already exhausted by her almost continual watching and nursing of me and my children, are greatly to be apprehended. However, if we can prevent any more such disturbances being given her, I hope that with the help of bleeding and some quieting medicines which she has taken, we shall be able to preserve that one. Qui classo ventris jam carcere regnant. What may not be dreaded from the passions of a silly man egged on by the more furious ones of an enraged wife and a favourite maid? He has shown already by his letters and messages to me that he did not scruple to scatter the terrors of hell and damnation in the face of every one who will not comply with his desires. Surely one cannot too carefully guard against the effects that such rants may have on ignorant and weak minds at this particular season, and therefore if Mr. Southcombe does not immediately withdraw, and promise on the true faith of a Christian not to raise any more such disturbances, I shall then, as the best expedient I can think of to preserve the minds of my fellow parishioners from being disturbed, apply to the bishop for a short suspension, which I think his own letters and papers will sufficiently warrant. And in such case, I could then wish that you might be appointed to take care of the parish in his stead. I know that you could not constantly attend, and therefore could only propose that you should be here next Sunday se'nnight, in order then, with a suitable sermon, to prevent the ill effects of the late violent proceedings, and that you should spend about 3 Sundays here in the approaching holy days, which time I am persuaded hereafter that you will think some of the most useful time that you have ever spent in the honour of God and his church. No man can have that effect on them, as you will, as no one is better respected by them. And as I think no parishioners are better disposed to considering the many disadvantages that have lain under having been very unfortunate in several succeeding ministers. Duty at such times as you could not attend would be, I am persuaded, cheerfully performed by Mr. Hull, Mr. Stacey, Mr. Foote, Mr. Webb, Mr. Hutton, Mr. Churchill, and several others, if there should be a necessity of making application to them. I desire that you will return me this and other letters which I have sent to you at Kingsnempton, so as that I may have copies made of them, and I will forward the originals to you afterwards. I desire likewise that you would, if possible, get a copy of the paper which I have first sent to Mr. Southcombe under my wife's handwriting concerning the menace which he first sent Luxton. As you are going soon to have some of your young gentlemen inoculated, I wish before the operation is performed you would send to Mr. Ranby or Mr. Hawkins, the King's surgeons, who have inoculated thousands, for particular directions on how the operation should be performed. For I am persuaded that the manner in which it is performed by the faculty at Exeter and other places in this county is very improper and dangerous, and as such has been some years since sufficiently demonstrated and exploded by Mr. Ranby. And 'tis amazing to me that none of the faculty of Exeter have ever yet taken notice of his observations or regulated their practice by them. The 3 persons that were inoculated by matter taken from me are now in a very good way. 2 of them have the disorder in the mildest manner that can be wished, and the appearance of the other has been surprisingly changed since yesterday by bleeding only. I trust by the blessing of God Almighty that Mr. Tosser will give you a very good account of everyone that he shall inoculate, especially if any more disturbances can be prevented from being given. From what Mr. Sathcombe has wrote me, it cannot be doubted but that he has tried every method he can think of to terrify people from submitting to this operation, and it can be no wonder if it may have diverted some weak minds from such intentions. Frank Lane, whom he mentions as having no inclination for the operation, married Mr. Sathcombe's maid, over whom, though I know not how, he still maintains a great influence. Let that influence be withdrawn, and I doubt not but he will follow the example of his elder brother. He decided to have his wife and 4 children inoculated. What James Hill's objections may be to the operation I know not. If he dislikes it, he may withdraw from this parish where he has no settlement. As to others, it may be averse to the operation, though I am convinced upon a fair examination there will be found but few such. For their better and more secure accommodation, I have offered them the free use of some of my farmhouses in the neighbourhood, which will conveniently hold a great many. The inclination of the majority of inhabitants will, by the paper which shall be laid before you this day, appear beyond all contradiction to be greatly in favour of the operation. Nay, I am convinced that there is not one sensible person in the whole parish that disapproves of it, not any one that can produce an argument against it which may bear the least appearance of reason. I am your most faithful, humble servant, James Buller.